Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to explore what is, honestly, a complete masterclass in human sociology just hiding right there in plain sight. We're pulling our insights today from a kind of unexpected source, a Jug New Kids Playtime nursery rhyme. Now, sure, on the surface, it's just this colorful, simple animation designed to entertain toddlers. But when you strip away the bouncy music and the bright colors, we're left with a raw, chronological roadmap of how human beings actually learn to coexist. Today, we're decoding the anatomy of cooperation.
Take a look at these 6 words. Aha. Oh. No. Thank you. Welcome. Now, I want you to look at this sequence not as, random baby babble, but as highly calculated linguistic milestones. Seriously, this short little phrase is completely devoid of filler. What you're looking at are the absolute foundational building blocks of emotional intelligence and social etiquette, mapped out all the way from solitary discovery straight through to complex group harmony.
And yes, believe it or not, that is the entire transcript of the source material, literally exactly 6 words. Now, I know it might seem a little bit funny, maybe even ridiculous, to put a 6-word baby cartoon under a psychological microscope, but there's immense value in looking at how we distill these really complex social norms down for the youngest, most unformed minds in our society. The extreme brevity here actually forces us to ask, why these specific words? Why would these chosen above all others to teach children how to behave?
So I want to challenge you for a second. What do these 6 words actually have in common? If you look past the infant-level vocabulary, you'll start to see this hidden micro-narrative of human cooperation. They aren't just greetings, and they definitely aren't random exclamations. They represent a complete arc of cognitive and social development. They are the exact linguistic tools that we use to navigate that tricky space between our own internal desires and the needs of the people around us.
To truly understand how this works, let's jump right into Section 1, Foundations of Kids' Playtime. Now, what's really interesting about this is how children's media is purposefully engineered to imprint survival skills without any nuance. There's just no room for ambiguity, right? It has to deliver core truths about how to live in a community. Notice how the metadata of this source material pairs 2 totally distinct concepts together. On one side, we have "Let's help each other everywhere," which is a mandate for foundational social skills and mutual aid. And on the other side, we've got "Apple and bananas," which represents foundational physical nutrition. The creators are directly paralleling physical nourishment with social nourishment. Just like apples and bananas are essential for the body, the mechanics of helping each other are absolutely essential for the survival of the community.
And here's exactly how that social nourishment gets delivered. We can map out the psychological journey of this tiny transcript as a complete chronological story of conflict and resolution. It's like a giant puzzle. Step 1 is realization, just waking up to the world around you. Step 2 is boundary, that inevitable friction that pops up when your world collides with someone else's. And finally, step 3 is social harmony, the resolution of that friction. It is a perfect, tiny 3-act play. Let's break down that very first act in Section 2, the spark of realization. This is the very beginning of our micro-narrative, because, well, before you can interact with a society, you first have to perceive it. Let's really slow down and unpack these first 2 syllables, aha and oh. Think deeply about what these sounds actually do. Aha is the universal vocalization of discovery. It happens the exact moment a new piece of information enters the brain. O follows right after it as the internal processing of that new information. Notice that neither of these sounds requires another person. Not at all. They represent an absolutely crucial milestone in solitary realization, where an individual establishes a cognitive connection with their environment for the very first time. So the crucial point is that this first stage is entirely based on passive observation. These first sounds, they just represent internal thought before any external action even occurs. The individual is simply taking in the world, recognizing stimuli, and processing it. But as we all know, you can't remain a passive observer forever. Eventually, you have to interact with the things and the people you've just discovered.
Which brings us right to our second act, Section 3, Establishing Personal Boundaries. And this brilliantly illustrates the turning point where passive observation inevitably turns into interpersonal friction. Because once you enter the social sphere, your desires are naturally going to clash with the desires of others. Notice the stark contrast we've got here. On one side, we have our passive observation, the aha and the oh. But on the other side, as those desires clash, we shift immediately to active agency with a single powerful word, no. We've moved from simply processing the environment to actively manipulating it, pushing back against it, and asserting our own will. We often think of the word no as a negative thing, especially in childhood development. We tend to view it as a tantrum or a breakdown in play. But in the anatomy of cooperation, no is an essential boundary-setting mechanism. It's a foundational linguistic tool for exercising your agency. You literally cannot have true cooperation unless both parties have the ability to safely navigate early social conflict and clearly define where they end and the other person begins. No isn't the end of cooperation, guys. It is the absolute prerequisite for it.
Now, let's see how this all builds into our final act. Section 4, the reciprocity cycle.
We've had the spark of realization, we've established our boundaries through conflict, and now we reach the climax. Thank you. Welcome. These are the final pieces of the puzzle. If the word no establishes individual agency, then thank you and welcome are the bridge that connects two autonomous individuals back together. These words represent the ultimate realization of our source's core theme. Let's help each other everywhere. It's the linguistic glue that repairs the friction caused by the assertion of boundaries.
Let's break down the mechanics of this mutual aid. Thank you is the act of acknowledging a social gift, a favor, or some kind of concession made by another person. It's an admission of gratitude that immediately lowers the defenses. And welcome is that crucial final step that completes the transactional loop. It signals to the whole group that the exchange was successful, and in doing so, it restores and maintains group harmony. It completely resolves the conflict introduced by the word no.
When we really look at this progression, from conflict to cooperation, it's honestly impossible not to connect this childhood milestone right back to our adult interactions. Think about your workplace, your relationships, your community. Don't the vast majority of our adult conflicts and resolutions boil down to these exact same mechanics? We realize a problem, we push back and establish our boundaries, and eventually we use reciprocal language to concede, thank each other, and restore the peace. The stakes definitely get higher as we age, but the blueprint never actually changes.
Which leaves us with a rather profound takeaway from what started as, frankly, a simple baby rhyme. If just 6 words, aha, oh, no, thank you, welcome, are entirely sufficient to map out human realization, establish safe boundaries, and foster a lifelong cycle of cooperation, are we perhaps overcomplicating how we help each other as adults? Maybe the secret to better communication isn't found in some complex management seminar, but in remembering the most fundamental scripts we were given at the very dawn of our cognitive lives. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to take these 6 words with you into the real world today.